Think about the last time you were waiting for a text. Not just any text. A text you actually needed. Maybe it was from someone you love, someone you used to talk to every single day, or someone who just stopped starting the conversation. You kept checking your phone. Nothing. And somewhere in your head, a quiet voice kept asking the same question over and over. Do they even think about me anymore? Here's the twist. Almost nobody tells you. The person on the other end might be thinking about you constantly. They might replay your last conversation 5 times a day. They might even type out a message, stare at it for a whole minute, and delete it before ever hitting send. And yet, they never text first. Why? Why would someone who clearly cares, who clearly feels something, choose silence over a single tap on a screen? The answer isn't laziness. It isn't indifference. It's something buried much deeper in how the human mind protects itself. And by the end of this video, you will never look at an unanswered chat the same way again. Let's paint a picture. 2 friends, close for years. One of them always initiates, "Hey, how's it going? Saw this and thought of you. Let's catch up soon." The other, warm, responsive, even affectionate whenever they do reply. But they never, not once, start the conversation themselves. Over time, the one who always reaches out starts to wonder, am I annoying them? Is this friendship one-sided? What happens if I just stop texting first and wait? Most people who actually try that experiment get the same quietly devastating result. Days turn into weeks of silence. No message. No, "Hey, you okay?" Nothing at all. It feels like proof, like final confirmation that the other person never cared as much as you did. But here's where it gets strange. When the two finally do talk again, the silent friend seems genuinely happy to hear from you. Relieved, even. That their words feel real. Their laughter isn't forced. Their questions about your life aren't just polite filler. So if they actually care, why does that caring seem to disappear the second it requires being the one to press send? First, this pattern isn't limited to friendship. It shows up in romantic relationship, in family group chats, in office Slack messages, in old college friend groups that slowly go quiet. There's always that one person, the reliable non-starter. They will answer almost anything you send. They will show up for almost anything you plan. But asking them to be the one who opens the door first feels, to them, almost physically impossible. And here's the part that should really make you pause. Many of these people aren't even fully aware of why they do it. Ask them directly, "Why don't you ever text first?" And you'll usually get a shrug or an "I don't know. I guess I'm just not a texter." Or, "I always mean to, I just forget." But that's not the real answer. And that's the surface level excuse the brain hands out on demand. Because the actual reason lives somewhere much harder to reach. Somewhere shaped by experiences they may never have connected, or to their phone habits at all. So what is actually happening in that split second before they almost text you, and then quietly put the phone back down? So what is their brain doing in that moment that yours isn't? That's where this gets genuinely fascinating, because the explanation isn't how much they care. It's about what happens the moment caring turns into risk. And here's the core truth. Texting first is not a small neutral action for everyone. For a specific type of person, it is an act of emotional exposure. Every time you send the first message, you are quietly saying, "I want your attention. I am choosing to reach toward you." And the moment you send it, you lose control of what happens next. They might reply instantly. They might reply hours later. They might not reply at all. For most people, that uncertainty barely registers. For a person shaped by certain early experiences, that tiny window of uncertainty can feel enormous. This links to something psychologists call rejection sensitivity, a heightened, almost reflexive fear of being turned away, ignored, or found too much. Now, people with high rejection sensitivity don't consciously decide to avoid texting first. Their nervous system does it for them. The moment their thumb hovers over send, a subtle alarm goes off in the background of their mind. The same kind of alarm that once protected humans from being cast out of the group. Because for most of human history, social rejection wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Now here's the mini twist. This fear rarely comes from nowhere. It's often built quietly, message by message, over years. Maybe as a child, reaching out for attention was met with an eye roll, or a "not now," or simply nothing at all. Maybe an earlier relationship taught them that being the one who cares more and made them feel small, or foolish, or easy to take for granted. The brain is an excellent pattern recognition machine, and once it learns that initiating equals risk, it starts quietly steering you away from initiating, and long before you consciously feel afraid. And there's also something called the mere effort trap in emotional avoidance, and every unanswered message from the past gets stored, almost like evidence in a private trial. Yet one ignored text doesn't do much damage, but 10 ignored texts, spread across a lifetime of different relationships, start to build an internal rule. Reaching out isn't safe. Waiting is safer. From that point on, waiting becomes the default setting, not because they stopped caring, but because their mind quietly decided that caring out loud costs too much. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Many non-initiated initiators actually experience more anxiety and silence than the person waiting on chat does. You assume their silence means peace, or indifference, or they're just busy. In reality, some of them are sitting with the same phone, the same open chat, the same half-typed sentence, feeling the exact ache you're feeling, just on the other side of the screen, convinced that reaching out will somehow make things worse instead of better. So the cold or distant person you've been quietly resenting might actually be the more anxious one in this dynamic, yet not the less invested one, the more guarded one. And that single shift in understanding is enough to change how you see almost every quiet relationship in your life. But there's still one more layer to this, a layer that explains why some people can text first with a stranger, a coworker, even a delivery driver, but freeze completely the moment it's someone who actually matters to them. Here's the twist that changes everything. The closer someone is to your heart, but the higher the emotional stakes of texting them first, which means, counterintuitively, the people you care about most are often the hardest to reach out to first. Think about it logically. If a stranger doesn't reply to your message, it barely registers. You don't know them. Their silence means nothing about your worth. But if the person you love, or your closest friend, or a parent you're trying to reconnect with doesn't reply, that silence feels like it's telling you something about you. Not about them being busy, about you being unwanted, unimportant, forgettable. The brain doesn't separate "they didn't see the message" from "they don't value me" and nearly as cleanly as we'd like to believe. This is why some people become expert initiators at work, effortlessly starting professional conversations, pitching ideas, messaging clients first, while in their personal life, with the people who matter most, they go completely silent. It isn't a contradiction, so it's protection. Professional rejection stings, but it doesn't touch identity the same way personal rejection does. So the same brain that fires off 10 confident work messages a day can freeze completely at the thought of texting someone it's afraid of losing. There's an even deeper piece hiding underneath this. For many non-initiators, there's a quiet, almost invisible belief running in the background. If I have to be the one who always reaches out, it proves I need them more than they need me. And needing someone more, in their internal rulebook, feels dangerous, like handing over power they might not get back. So instead of reaching out and risking that imbalance, they wait. They tell themselves waiting is patience, or respect, or not wanting to be too much. In reality, it's often self-protection dressed up as restraint. And here's the part that will hit even harder if you write. Ever been the one who stopped texting first to test someone? Waiting for someone else to reach out isn't actually neutral either. It's just a different flavor of the same fear. So both people, in a slow-fading relationship, can be terrified of the exact same thing. Being the one who cared more. Being the one left on red. Being the one who reached and got nothing back. And because both sides are silently protecting themselves from the same wound, the relationship can quietly starve. Not from a lack of love, but from a lack of anyone willing to go first. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. So some of the most meaningful relationships in your life, a childhood friendship, and a sibling bond, even a slow-burning romance, may not be ending because the feelings faded. They may be ending because two people who both still care are each waiting in silence, each convinced the other one has already stopped. And once you see that pattern, you start noticing it everywhere. B2F, in the friend you haven't spoken to in 6 months, in the family member you keep meaning to call, in the person you liked but never followed up with because if they wanted to talk, they'd text me first. Somewhere in that chain of silence, real connection is quietly slipping away, not because anyone stopped caring, but because everyone is waiting for permission that never comes. So what do you actually do with it? You can't rewire someone else's nervous system for them, but you can change how you respond to silence, starting with the story you tell yourself about it. The next time someone you care about goes quiet, resist the automatic conclusion they don't care. Consider the far more common possibility. They're scared, not indifferent. Scared of being too much. Scared of reaching and getting nothing back. Scared in exactly the way you might be, if you're honest with yourself. If you're the one who never texts first, here's a small, low-pressure way to start rewiring that pattern. Don't aim for a big emotional message. Aim for something tiny and low stakes. A meme. A one-line, "This made me think of you." A simple, "Hope your week is going okay." You're not trying to prove your feelings in one message. You're trying to teach your own nervous system, slowly, that reaching out doesn't always end in rejection. Every small text that goes well is evidence your brain can use to build a new, safer rule. And if you're the one who always initiates and feels tired of it, try shifting the question. Instead of asking, "Why don't they ever text first?" try asking, "What would it mean to gently tell them how this feels?" A quiet pattern can only change once someone names it out loud, not with blame, but with honesty. Something as simple as, "I've noticed I'm usually the one who reaches out, and I just wanted to check in about that." And can open a door that years of silent resentment never could. Because here's the truth this entire topic points back to. This silence rarely means someone has stopped caring. More often, it means fear has quietly taken the wheel. For them, or for you, or for both of you at the same time. Understanding that doesn't fix everything overnight, but it changes the story. It turns "they clearly don't care" into "maybe we're both just scared to go first," and that single shift can be the difference between a relationship that slowly fades and one that finally gets a second chance. So here's a question worth sitting with before you close this tab. Is there someone in your life you've been waiting on who might actually be waiting on you? If a name just came to mind, that's not a coincidence. That's your answer. Tell us in the comments who you thought of, and maybe, just maybe, be the one who texts first today.